Number 10. The Han Dynasty cattail. Most people see cattails as those boring brown plants growing beside ponds. Nature looked at that idea and said, "Watch this." Hidden inside an alpine wetland in China's Sichuan province is what appears to be thousands of separate cattail plants. Except they aren't. Genetic testing revealed they're all one giant clone, one organism. The clone covers more than 103 hectares, making it well over twice the size of Vatican City. Even crazier, scientists estimate it first started growing roughly 1,900 years ago, around the late Han Dynasty. That means while ancient empires were rising and collapsing, this plant just kept quietly spreading underground. The really strange part? Although it's technically one organism, it isn't frozen in time. Tiny genetic changes keep appearing throughout the clone, almost like different neighborhoods slowly renovating themselves while the city stays the same. So, yes, some marsh plants are apparently older than kingdoms. Not exactly what I expected from swamp grass. Number 9. The Ghost Forest of Ireland. When people hear about giant tree organisms, they usually think of one famous American clone. But Ireland has been hiding something almost nobody talks about. Researchers studying European aspen expected to find ordinary forests. Instead, DNA testing uncovered gigantic clones stretching across hundreds of hectares. The largest, known as Clone N014, covers roughly 322 hectares. That's larger than the entire country of Monaco. Or if you'd rather, imagine one tree quietly pretending to be an entire forest. The researchers even nicknamed these ancient survivors ghosts of giants, which honestly sounds less like botany and more like the title of an eldritch horror novel. Many of the individual trunks you see today aren't separate trees at all. They're simply new shoots growing from the exact same underground root system. Thousands of trunks, one organism. Nature basically invented copy and paste, and it's been doing it for centuries. Number 8. The Michigan giant that refuses to age. When someone says honey fungus, you're probably imagining a few mushrooms growing on a dead log. Congratulations, you've underestimated fungi by approximately 400,000 kilograms. Hidden beneath Michigan lies one individual Armillaria gallica that scientists estimate weighs around 400,000 kilograms. Its underground body spreads across roughly 70 hectares, making it larger than Vatican City. Even more ridiculous, it's at least 2,500 years old. That's older than the Roman Republic. Now here's the weird part. Most living things accumulate more and more genetic mistakes as they age. This fungus barely has. Despite spending millennia expanding underground, researchers found it has remained surprisingly genetically stable. It's basically the biological equivalent of running the same computer for 2,000 years without crashing. The mushrooms people see above ground? Those are just the fruit. The real organism is an enormous underground web silently weaving through the forest below. So next time you spot a mushroom, just remember, it might be connected to something older than your entire civilization. Number 7. The forest killer beneath Oregon. If Michigan's fungus is the peaceful old grandpa, Oregon's version is the psychopath. Meet the famous humongous fungus, an individual of the fungus Armillaria ostoii, hiding beneath Oregon's Malheur National Forest. Its underground body covers approximately 2,385 acres. That's nearly double the size of West Hollywood, and unlike giant trees or whales, you can't even see it. The mushrooms are basically tiny antennas sticking above the surface. The real organism is an underground network spreading through the soil in every direction. Unfortunately, it isn't just sitting there looking impressive, it's parasitic. The fungus attacks tree roots, steals nutrients, weakens entire forests and slowly expands as more trees die. It's less like one mushroom, and more like an invisible, city-sized predator. Imagine walking through a peaceful forest knowing the biggest living thing there isn't any of the trees. It's the thing quietly eating them all from underneath. Yeah, Nature gets unsettling pretty quickly. Number 6. The seaweed that owns an entire coastline. Seaweed doesn't exactly scream largest organism on Earth. Usually it just screams, someone forgot to clean the beach. But hidden along the Baltic Sea is one of biology's strangest discoveries. Meet Fucus radicans, a species of brown seaweed found nowhere else on Earth. Scientists expected to find thousands of separate plants. Instead, DNA testing revealed that some of the biggest clones are actually the same individual appearing again and again across 100 to 550 kilometers of coastline. That's not a seaweed patch. That's basically a living coastline. Even stranger, the clone isn't perfectly identical anymore. Tiny mutations have appeared over time, creating slightly different branches while still belonging to the exact same organism. Imagine photocopying the same page for centuries until every copy develops tiny differences. It's still the same original, just with a few glitches. Nature apparently invented software updates before computers did. Number 5. The underwater kingdom older than civilization. The Mediterranean Sea has seen the rise of Egypt, ancient Greece, Rome. Entire civilizations have appeared and disappeared along its shores. One organism may have quietly watched all of them. Meet Posidonia oceanica, another species of seagrass, but one that's far older and far stranger than it looks. Researchers studying 40 different Mediterranean locations discovered enormous clones stretching up to 15 kilometers. Some scientists believe these clones could be thousands or even tens of thousands of years old. Think about that. When humans were still figuring out farming, this thing was already expanding underwater. Unlike forests that burn or animals that migrate, these seagrass meadows simply keep growing little by little, year after year, century after century, millennium after millennium. From above, it looks like an ordinary patch of underwater plants. Zoom out, and you're looking at an underwater kingdom built by one living organism. Talk about playing the long game. Number 4. The living highway beneath Florida. Most plants spread outward. This one apparently decided roads were cooler. Inside Florida's Indian River Lagoon, scientists discovered a giant turtlegrass clone stretching an astonishing 47 kilometers. Instead of covering one giant square, it snakes through the estuary like a biological highway. Researchers sampled hundreds of locations. Around 89% shared the exact same genetic identity, meaning most of this enormous underwater corridor is one plant. Imagine driving across an entire city, only to learn every tree, every blade of grass, and every flower beside the road belonged to the same organism. The craziest part? People swam above it for decades without realizing anything unusual. Sometimes the biggest discoveries aren't hidden because they're invisible. They're hidden because nobody thought to ask if everything was connected. Number 3. The Million Queen Ant City. We've talked about giant plants. We've talked about giant fungi. Now let's talk about insects accidentally building civilization. Along Japan's Ishikari coast lives Formica yacensis, an ant that clearly never learned when to stop expanding. This supercolony contains roughly 45,000 nests, around 306 million workers, and an estimated 1 million queens. Yes, 1 million. The colony covers about 2.7 square kilometers, making it larger than Monaco. But size isn't what makes this insane, it's cooperation. Instead of fighting neighboring nests like most ants, every nest works together as one gigantic superorganism. Food, defense, expansion, everything is shared. It's less like thousands of colonies, and more like one enormous city whose citizens all happen to have 6 legs. Human civilization took thousands of years to build cities. Ants apparently speed-ran the challenge. Number 2. The plant bigger than Washington, D.C. Chupasgosi. If someone asked you where Earth's biggest plant lives, you'd probably point toward a rainforest. Wrong. It's underwater. In Australia's Shark Bay, scientists made one of the most ridiculous discoveries in modern botany. What looked like an enormous seagrass meadow was actually one single clone of Posidonia australis. This organism stretches for roughly 180 kilometers and covers an area larger than Washington, D.C. Imagine diving into a peaceful underwater meadow, then discovering every leaf belongs to the exact same plant. Researchers estimate it's around 4,500 years old. Even more impressive, it survives heat waves, changing salt levels and harsh environmental conditions thanks partly to carrying extra sets of chromosomes. Basically, nature accidentally gave this thing bonus hardware. The largest plant on Earth isn't a towering tree. It's an underwater field quietly pretending to be thousands of separate plants.
Number 1. The ant empire that crosses countries. You know those maps showing the borders between nations? These ants don't care. Meet the Argentine ant supercolony, possibly the closest thing nature has ever built to a biological empire. Scientists discovered one cooperative colony stretching more than 6,000 kilometers from Italy all the way to Spain's Atlantic coast. That's not city-sized, that's country-sized, and somehow, it gets worse. Researchers later found introduced colonies on completely different continents behaving as though they belonged to the same gigantic family. Workers from California and Japan, separated by nearly 9,000 kilometers, showed almost no aggression toward one another. To an ant, those aren't foreign nations, they're just different neighborhoods. The colony contains billions of workers and countless queens spread across enormous regions. Imagine if every city in several countries suddenly worked together as one perfectly coordinated civilization. No borders, no wars, just one expanding superorganism. Nature looked at human empires and quietly built a bigger one.